Welcome to Haunting Live Podcast, a place where we bring a new paranormal guest each episode to share their journey and experiences.
Hey everyone, check out our merchandise that we have now listed underneath HauntingLivePodcast.com. We used to be on Etsy, but we found a little bit of troubles with that, so we are now on HauntingLivePodcast.com with our merch store. Check it out. We've got so much items all together with cleansing items and crystals and so much more. Check us out, HauntingLivePodcast.com. Hey everyone, it's Brother Chris here from Divine Oracle Podcast. Join me Mondays as I do readings and I post them right here in Podbean. It's easy, it's enlightening, and it's your weekly readings. So join me, will you? The Rock Spa. Wonderful location to check out. Check out their website at therockspa.com. Shipping worldwide. So why not check out the Rock Spa at therockspa.com.
Follow us here at Haunting Live. Our new show, we just started doing new shows in November, and we are honored to have a brand new co-host on our shows now. Yolanta Meri is our co-host, and she does a lot of work for us on the side and introduces people to the show and discusses different topics on the show. So we're really happy to have her here this season. So go check out our brand new episodes at our host of Haunting Live Podcast.
Hey Trevor, I am super stoked about our guest today. Not only are we going to be interviewing a talented and wonderful psychic medium, but he is also the new managing editor of a really cool website, popheist.com, and it's just been recently launched. It's a new worker-owned news and humor site. Now, if that's not enough, our guest is also a Freemason, so we're going to be talking psychic mediums. We're going to be talking about maybe some pop culture journalism and definitely some Freemason stuff. Our guest today is the amazing Ethan Kaye.
Welcome, Ethan.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Thank you so much for taking your time, and thank you, Yolanta, for the introduction there. And yes, this is Haunting Live Podcast. Welcome to the episode. So first of all, Ethan, do you mind going into your background, a little about what you do day to day, and start with that?
Sure. I know that this is a paranormal podcast, so I can kind of focus on that. I do a lot of other things, like I play bass, I'm a writer, I'm in advertising, in grad school, all kinds of things. But the thing I think that's probably the most relevant is a few years ago, at this point, probably close to 15 years ago, I got interested in spiritualism, and both as a religion and as a paranormal science. You've had Nikenya Hall on your show. She's a really good friend of mine. And we both, I'm not going to say grew up together, but we grew up in the Spiritualist Church of New York City together as psychic mediums. We are both ministers with the Spiritualist Church of New York City, like I said. She does more in-person things because she is in Manhattan, and I'll do more of the virtual services, which are still a whole lot of fun. I recommend if anyone wants to get just a little bit of flavor of what a spiritualist service is, we are on Facebook. We have our own webpage. And it's a place where you can just, enter your email address and say, hey, I'd like to come in for a service, for a virtual service. For an in-person service, you can just show up. But for a virtual service, it's all done online over Zoom. And we do psychic readings, we do healing meditations, and always an inspirational talk with those kinds of things. So that's what I'm not necessarily in what I call private practice, which is something where I would have necessarily a space in the city or in wherever place I'm in, and I'm doing readings. I'll do them especially for the church, and I will do them occasionally for just certain private events. But yeah, I'm proud to say that I'm a certified psychic medium with Holistic Studies Institute, much like Nikenya. And it's something that I am still very enthused about, something that I collect a whole bunch of books and do a lot of reading on to this day. So yeah, that's kind of my psychic background. In addition to, like you said, the Freemasonry stuff, which people always kind of like wonder what that's all about. So I do that too.
So what got you into being a spiritual medium or a psychic medium? Did you have experiences before the spiritualist church, or is that just part and parcel of following the practices of within the spiritualist church?
I think it's more of the second. It was at a time where I was raised Jewish. I had been living in New York City for a couple of years, and I said to myself, I'm not Jewish. It's I'm not following the mythology. I'm not following the anything about it. I'm just kind of I'm not gonna. It's not atheistic. It's definitely there's a belief in something there, but it was definitely non practicing anything. And I had a lot of free time. I was working all day and coming home at night and just buying books from the Strand. And I started getting a couple books on psychics, some Sylvia Browne stuff, some Lisa Williams stuff. And there was a moment where I was reading a Sylvia Browne book, and I forget which one it was. She's passed away, and she's very controversial, but I think that there are things in her books that if she didn't come up with them herself, she borrowed them from someone who knew what they were talking about. And I'd had a belief for a while that if you experience a moment of deja vu or experience a moment of coincidence, that is the universe telling you that you are where you are supposed to be at that moment. You have reached a save point in your game, and that is where you're supposed to be right then and there. And it's just something I had rattling around in my head for a number of years. And I was reading the book, I want to say it was by Sylvia Browne, and she just kind of offhandedly mentions that that's the thing, that's a thing, that you have your life plan that you've developed before you came down to earth, and there are various things that you can check off and say, this is where I had to be at this point, at this time. This everything is going the way that I had it planned before I incarnated. And it made me put the book down for a minute, because that was really something that surprised me. Just like, okay, I came up with this on my own, and it seems to be a cosmic something that is fairly agreed upon. And then I started reading more and more books on the subject. I really love books about life on the other side. Um, uh, just even the old books from like the 1800s and the early 1900s that are fun as anything. And I was reading a book by Lisa Williams, who's a very talented medium. I've seen her work. She is unbelievably good. And she just said another offhanded comment. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, you might have a local spiritualist church where you live. And I'm just like, I'm in New York City. New York City has everything. New York City probably has a spiritualist church. I did a little bit of online research, found out where the church was meeting. The church was at, I want to say 35th Street and 5th Avenue. It was a Swedenborgian church, which it's kind of like pre-spiritualism, spiritualism. Emanuel Swedenborg was a mystic and seer at the end of the 18th century who wrote books about how he had gone to see heaven, how he had gone to see hell. He wrote several books about these kinds of things. And that developed into its own religion. It is, at this point in time, it's not a huge religion. and the Swedenborgian Church in New York City only had a few members. So every day of the week, they would rent it out to a different organization. And the Spiritualist Church met, I want to say, twice a month. And I remember just getting up the courage to go down there and say, okay, I'm going to try, I'm going to dip my toe into a different religion. What is this all about? So I went there, had an interesting service. They did, I stayed after for the seance. And that's just a feature of spiritualist services is you could do in person. It's usually a seance, lights are out, everyone in a circle, with one or two mediums leading the group. The online version is kind of the same thing. We have 3 mediums who pick out people from the Zoom grid and give them messages. And I thought it was interesting. The message that I got, I didn't connect with, but it was interesting enough for me to come back. And it was interesting enough for me to take the literature. And the literature was about the church, about spiritualism as a thing. And there was also a brochure about Holistic Studies Institute, which is, and was at the time, kind of the training program for the ministers and the psychics and the mediums that the church used. So it was a multi step process for certification. And I just said, I wrestled with it for a little while, and I said, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just see if I can become a psychic medium, which is a weird thing to say in this day and age, is just, can I do this? Because I always thought that it had to be something that you were born with, like a quirk, like a skill, like being able to roll your tongue into like a hot dog shape. It's just something that you had to be born with. And somewhere like deep in my family tree, there was a medium or two. I never met them. I didn't know them. I just heard about them from family, like, oh, she's like that. So I gave it a shot, and I kept going to the church, but I also started taking classes at Holistic Studies Institute and started finding that I could do the work, that there's a way that you can teach yourself how to do this. You don't need to be automatically in tune with this kind of thing. There are exercises that you can do. Meditation helps. I was meditating a lot at the time. And it's those times where you really find those times when they hit. When you give a message to someone you don't know and they say, I can place that resonates really well for me. I could share the an example that we had our big final exam where my class, we invited our friends in to get readings, and it was just a free psychic fair virtually.
Okay.
This was in person back when we still had the time and the space, and I want to say this was 2014, maybe 2013. And there was someone who was brought in. I didn't know who they were. And you can kind of tune into these things. It's you open yourself up, you envision just white light pouring out of you, kind of like a big bright light bulb, and you start getting. It's not a message like somebody saying, "Hey, this guy's a doctor. This guy, to ask him about his daughter." It's, for me at least, it is little snippets of words in your head or flashes of images in your head that are completely incongruous from your normal thought process. And you know how a normal thought process is you're looking at, let's say you're looking at a book and you open and you're thinking about the book and you think about another book that you have in your library. And it's like, oh, that book is next to the book on Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, I remember in the time I went to Disney World, I got that really bad sunburn. it's that A to C, A to B to C, that when that doesn't happen, that's when you know it is a psychic or mediumistic message. So I'm this guy's in front of me. I close my eyes, and what I see is he is crouched down. This man in front of me, in my mind, he is crouched down and he has a big silver shield that is deflecting things. They could be
Okay.
bullets, they could be just things, projectiles flying at him. And I said, "This is what I got." I tell him, I see you behind this silver shield. You are deflecting things." And he goes, "That's really interesting because I'm a cop and
No.
I have a silver badge, and that badge I've felt has protected me from so many things in my life." And it was just like that, like, "Oh, I
Wow.
gave you this message and it resonated with you. Great. Okay, cool." And there were other things in the message that were about his family, that I resonated. But the one that sticks with me is this person who I didn't know, who ended up actually being a friend of the Stephen Robinson, who ran the Holistic Studies Institute. So Stephen immediately said, "Now, Ethan, this is so and so. He is
Oh,
an
wow.
actual cop," and that was my graduation, my final exam for the class.
So you passed. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Um, it was really, and then like over time, I joined the ministry program with Holistic Studies Institute. That lasted for a number of years. I became a minister in October 2017. We were meeting up on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. So we had a big graduation ceremony, and every other week I would be either helping lead the service or playing piano with it. I was on the church board for a number of years. Um, and then the pandemic just changed everything. We couldn't afford to rent out the space for our biweekly meetings. We couldn't afford to rent out the space for our psychic fairs. Um, and I want to say that the church is doing well now. They've got a space. They're meeting twice a month there. They're meeting twice a month or once or twice a month online. I've done some services with them, which has been wonderful. It's a rebuilding phase. And I think since the pandemic, a lot of organizations, not just churches, are going through that rebuilding phase.
Yeah, I think our spiritualist church here in Peterborough, Ontario, I think they're still online. So they
Yes.
haven't gotten into that rebuilding in person phase, which I'm definitely looking forward to. So when it comes to, like, I keep hearing spiritualist church, when you hear of really good mediums, it feels as though a lot of really good, really well-known mediums have gone through the spiritualist church. Is that program the magic sauce, or what is the magic sauce that is just turning out all of these incredibly talented, connected psychic mediums?
It's weird because there is, at least in the United States, there is a not nationalist, God, a National Spiritualist Union of Churches, the NSAC, where they handle it's a coast to coast organization that has standards and practices and the way things are done. The Spiritualist Church of New York City follows most of those, but then decided that since we are a small congregation, we didn't want to be under the thumb of the national union. So it's an independent church. Most of the things are the same. We still have the same principles. We still do the same work. We don't have the support of the larger organization like that. And consequently, we don't have to pay dues the same way that they do. That's a long way for me to say there are organizations that you can tap into, that there are programs you can tap into all over the place. It doesn't matter where you are. There are places in England, there are places in Canada, there are places especially in South America and Australia. It's very popular in Australia, very popular in South America. that if you want to take that leap, you can try to do you can do the work and say, is there someplace local? Is there someplace that's doing things online? Um, like any service and education, your mileage may vary. It's unfortunate. It's the unfortunate truth is that some places are going to be better than others. Some people might do better with in-person training rather than uh, something virtual. There are great places you can go, however. There's one that I went to for a week, which was fantastic in Lilydale, New York. If you've ever heard of it, I believe it is not far from you.
Nope, not all.
Um,
It's very close, but I've never been. I'd love to go sometime.
it's about a half hour away from Buffalo, half hour south from Buffalo. And I went to school out there, and I never heard of it when I was in college. But when I was doing the work with the Holistic Studies Institute, it always came back to, oh, you should probably go to Lilydale for a weekend or a week. And if you are planning on going, go in the summer, uh, get a hotel room. I stayed in Dunkirk, I think, or Fredonia. They're around there. It's only about a 10-minute drive. There's some hotels in town, but it gets very busy. And they have classes. They do open classes. You can register for classes, and then they do tours of the town. It is a town of psychic mediums. You have to prove yourself to the town board if you want to move in there. It's a very small place. It's really beautiful. It's right by the lake, mountains, absolutely gorgeous. And every night they have events. So there's a gigantic auditorium there where they bring in mediums from around the country, from around the world. That's where I saw Lisa Williams. I took a workshop with her, and just to see someone who is that good, and just to see someone work that well. I know my own limitations. I know that I am not the world's best psychic medium. I am thrilled when I get really good hits. But for someone like Lisa Williams to stand up there, and you have probably 200, 300 people in this room, and she just goes, "You over there, your grandfather just passed away, and you still have that picture of him in the dashboard of your car, and he remembers the thing that you did with the balloons when he passed away. He thought that was really nice, and he wants you to move that picture from the dashboard of your car to the space that you have reserved for it on the refrigerator." And just for her to just like boom, 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 and this person is just crying because that everything that she said was pitch perfect, and she did this again and again and again. It was just incredible to see her work.
Oh, wow.
So I would completely recommend taking a week or even just a long weekend and just seeing what they have going on. I took some fun classes. They have a great museum there of just the history of spiritualism. And I also had a very, very incredible psychic encounter.
Well, let's talk about that. That sounds interesting. Go
This
ahead
is
and talk
something
about that for a bit. What happened?
This is so a friend of a friend, Neil Rezepkowski. He is a medium. He's a doctor, and he extremely analytical, very smart, and he is just really good at physical mediumship. And Stephen Robinson, who is the head of the school and the founder of the Spiritualist Church in New York City, he said, if you go up there, try to get in on one of his table tipping seances. And I emailed him, and he said, "Oh, we're not doing one. I'm just too busy and everything like that." So he said, "If you want to grab a drink, let's grab a drink." So we were playing just email tag for a couple days, and he said, "A whole bunch of mediums that are friends of mine came in from Baltimore. Do you want to join us for a seance tonight?" And I was like, yeah, let's do that. Drove through the woods. He was all the way out in the boonies, and this gorgeous dome-shaped house that's just in the middle of nowhere. This gorgeous house that he has set up for spirit communication. And so we were sitting on the patio. He's got a big just Walmart plastic table. It is a round table. It is four plastic legs. There's nothing there. And he goes, "Do you want to do some table tipping?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we dangled our fingers on the table, it barely touching. It's that kind of like it's there, it's not, it's there, it's not. You're barely touching it. And we start getting the emotions going on. We turned on some music. It was just, I think it was the can. It was something very energetic. And he invited the spirits to join, and the table started moving. And the table started moving from side to side, moving from side. He's not touching it. He's sitting on the opposite end of the deck. It's me and three other mediums from Baltimore. And this table is going back and forth. It's moving back and forth. And he said that the goal is to get it to lift off the ground. But even if you don't, this table is still moving by the spirits. This thing it's ridiculous because there's nothing there. It is a cheap plastic Walmart patio table.
So how do you handle this? The table is dancing around. What are your thoughts on that?
We pushed our seats back a little bit to give it some room. And it came to each one of us like a dog introducing itself.
Oh.
It moved towards me. It moved towards someone else, and you can see no one's hand is on this thing. These fingertips are barely on this table, and it's charging around like an animal on the deck. God. And this goes on for maybe about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And it's like it gets really dark because it was the summer. It was pretty late. He says, "Do you want to bring it inside?" So we carry this big plastic Walmart table into the seance room. Seance room is just a big room with chairs lining the edges. There is a spirit cabinet, which is it's a four-walled booth with a chair in it. It's just four curtains that you can pull open the front one and get in and close it again, kind of almost like a shower stall. And there's enough room for us to put the table down there. So he turns on, was it popcorn? And this table is just charging back and forth. We can't keep our hands on it because this thing is just going. It is so active. And we couldn't get it to levitate off the ground. But it was still just it moving was phenomenal. But that was only the start of the night.
That's just the beginning. Most people would have left well before that.
But I love this because it wasn't, and some more mediums showed up. This wasn't like, let's bring in the rubes and fool them. It was, these are all professional mediums. These are all people who do this kind of thing. No one's trying to fool anybody else. It's just a great time to get together and have fun. And Neil does regular seances up there. It's kind of like a closed group. But he does offer things like sweat lodges and he has guests come in. So this was just, I'm going to say maybe 5 or 6 other people came in, and there were some snacks, and he says, let's do this. So we all sit in the circle. We've taken the table out.
I love how casual this is. So let's just call the ghosts. Let's just do that. Why not?
The people in Lilydale are doing this every day. Even if you're not there for the workshops, you can still schedule time with a medium and they will do a session with you. So we sit there, it's dark. There is light coming in from under the door, and he has a red, it's kind of like a glass dish that he has a red light behind. So it's kind of diffusing the light a little bit, but it's still fairly dark. you can see sort of movement, but and he has the music on. We are all kind of opening ourselves up to this. We are getting in our psychic moods, and I start seeing little sparks just around the room and a little bit of smoke, and that's ectoplasm. The ectoplasm was coming in under the door, or coming
Oh,
by the. At least it was by the door because that's where the light was, and I could see it the best. These little, just not as bright as fireflies, just little tiny things, and I'll jump ahead because I don't necessarily I don't remember everything that happened there because we started taking turns in the spirit cabinet and giving messages like that. But there was one time where someone got in the cabinet. It might have been Neil, and it's fairly dark, but it's quiet enough that if someone was moving, you could see them, and if someone was, and you could hear them. And we were all holding hands. Everyone was holding hands. Actually, no one was in the spirit box because everyone was holding hands. And this has happened. We're trying to summon spirits, and it's one of those things where if anyone kind of feels something happening, they can talk about it or they can let that spirit take over, which is weird. I've only done it once and I don't like it. Um, and we're sitting there and it's dark, but you can still see faces, you can still see everything, these tiny little lights. And I see the head and shoulders of something.
oh,
I'm gonna say it's probably 6.5, 7 feet tall. And I can see the head, side of the head and the shoulders. And it looks like it's got a shawl on. And I'm like, am I just hallucinating? And someone across the circle goes, "Oh my God, do you see that?" And the
oh,
person sitting next to me says, "Oh my God, it's so tall."
oh dear.
So we were all experiencing this at the same time. We were all seeing the same thing. And I know it's easy enough to say, "Oh, we set this up for the public and it's just something that happens here." I can tell you, this room was quiet. We were all holding hands. This thing didn't make any sound. It was, and believe me, if something's 7 feet tall, it's going to make a noise. It's going to disturb something. Uh, and I think that was the end of the night. Um,
I would be
Pretty incredible.
so freaked out, but not really, because in your field, being a medium, you must encounter that kind of stuff on a daily basis, or at least
I'm not.
do you kind of get used to it, or how does it feel to you nowadays?
I don't. I'd say that back in the 1800s, that physical mediumship of, oh, the trumpets floating, oh, the tables rattling, a lot of that stuff was manufactured because that was what people expected. Is that when you went to you got you hired your medium for the night, and you went into your parlor and all the lights went down and you had your friends over and the tables rattled and birds appeared and whatever. That was what was expected back then. But now, so much of it is this kind of like clairvoyance, person to person, giving messages, that there are still people who do physical mediumship. There's still people who, knock, you can hear the knocks on the table. Um, and a lot of those people still work in Lilydale. And we have people at the Spiritualist Church who do that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a step beyond the regular, oh, has your grandfather passed? His name was Mike. He did this and that and the other thing. And I think that, not to discourage anyone from coming to a seance with any of the spiritualist churches, most of what you're going to get is probably going to be more of the, "I have a message for you. This happened in your life," rather than, "Let's see if we can make the table move and have, uh, you know, listen to knocks on the table and that kind of stuff." Um, but when you do, it definitely doesn't take away from a really good message that you can get or give to someone. And it's those little things that when they hit, it just I keep saying it because it makes you feel good for the rest of the day. That you're not fishing, that something actually came through and connected two people who were otherwise not connected. I always go back to the first service that I did virtually. We had been closed for a while. I came in and did the service virtually, and I was giving messages, and I said the person, I had never seen them before, and I said, the image that I'm getting in my head is chocolate covered cherries, and that message to me means that there is something rich and indulgent in your life that you are trying to avoid, but it's going to be something that you are really going to enjoy when you get it. So make an exception for this thing that comes into your life that is a little bit more indulgent. And she goes, you know, I just got some chocolate covered cherries at work and I ate them all today. I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. Perfect.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's fun stuff. And
Yeah.
Kenya's got these stories too. Like you do this kind of work, um, whether it's structured or you're just someone who visits mediums, these things come around and it's really cool every time it does.
Now, before you do readings or after you came back from Lilydale, did you have any other paranormal experiences, maybe within your own space, the fun flickering of the lights, the, other types of paranormal activity?
I will tell you that I am scared of ghosts. I am remarkably scared of ghosts. If I'm going to a hotel for work or for various things, and I'm booking a hotel, I will ask for a room that's not haunted.
What?
And for the first time, someone called me on it. I was in San Diego about 3 weeks ago for a conference, and I'd written that in the the when I ordered the room, and the guy said, "So you want a non-haunted room?" And he's the first person who's ever asked. And I said, "If it's possible, I don't want a haunted room." And he's like, "I could give you room 666. I don't usually give that one out." And I said, "Let's not do that. Let's not tempt fate." um, I had a really interesting moment where I was visiting the 9/11 memorial
Okay.
and the museum. And that's a place where just a lot of people had passed away. And I'm going through it and I'm reading things, and I just felt this overwhelming just pressure on my chest and a pressure in my throat. And it felt like it was unreal. It was just the effect of all the emotions of the people around me, in addition to all the spirits who I don't think were still there, but it's still like were attached to this space. And I got extremely quiet, and it was a physical sensation of I can't breathe.
Oh, wow.
I can't breathe. And there are people here, well, there are spirits who couldn't breathe. And I was feeling what they were feeling not to say that my experience was anything like theirs, because it's different, but it was a visceral physical reaction that I interpreted as me being sensitive to things affecting me like that. And I've had that feeling happen to me in a spiritual way before. We were working in class, and like it's funny, I just said it was the channeling aspect of when you invite a spirit to kind of come in and use your voice. And I have not seen a version of that where it has been convincing to me.
Okay.
But we were doing it in class. It was just something that it was part of the curriculum. We had to give it a shot. And we turned on some new age music and turned the lights down with little, tea candles. That's how the classes were mostly conducted. It's a very chill atmosphere. And we just invited the spirits that were around in a very protected environment to speak through our voices. And this is the only other time I'd ever experienced it. Was I felt the pressure in my chest, and I felt my throat open up, like someone had taken their hands and just, like just not that they were strangling me. It was kind of like they had balled up their hands on the inside and they had pulled them apart in my throat.
Oh,
And
wow.
it got like a kind of a low guttural moan out of it. No one was saying anything, but it was an experience that I'd never really felt before. But I want to say that it was something that was physical, that probably, that I interpret it at least as this was something that spirits were doing physically to me, the same way that at the 9/11 museum, I was feeling that I couldn't breathe. I was feeling the pressure on my chest. I was feeling the pressure on my throat. And I think that a lot of psychics and mediums experience that kind of stuff. Now, like a really good psychic medium can walk through a museum and get like the audio commentary coming through as they see, different exhibits or, different paintings.
Mhm.
They can hear. I've heard that that's a thing. I wish that were the case with me, but like, because that'd be amazing. But I've heard that people can do it. You get that little bit of, you know, that person was a friend of mine, or like, I was really depressed when I painted this picture because my daughter had just died, or the people get those kind of messages. I think that you really do need to open yourself up to that in a way that I will admit I don't do it all the time. I kind of have to turn it on and turn it off situationally.
Yeah, definitely interesting how those things connect and they're very similar but different instances. So you had the feeling of your throat in both of those instances. So let's switch topics now a little bit, and I want to jump quickly onto your Freemasonry background and what that entails. I'm really intrigued by that. I'm sure some of our listeners are as well. So introduce us to that topic a little bit and tell us what you do with that.
I think there's a lot of mythology around Freemasonry that I don't know if it gives it a bad rap. It gives it a very complicated rap. Is that there are Freemason temples in every major city, in most small cities, in small towns. It is a great social organization that does tend to keep some of its workings and doings behind the curtain. And I think that has led to a lot of speculation, a lot of extrapolation, a lot of imagination when people are looking at something that they can't grasp the entirety of. I joined the Freemasons in 2007. I had been living in New York for a year. I had a lot of young friends from the improv community, and I said I want to have older friends as well. So I took the tour. A lot of lodges will give you tours.
Oh,
It's not. I gotta hand it to being in New York City, because New York City has the Grand Lodge of New York State, and it's different in Canada, and I do acknowledge that. In the United States, every state has a different organizational structure. There is no United States Masonry. So it just so happens that in New York City on 23rd Street, there is the headquarters of Masonry for all of the entire New York State. So Buffalo reports to New York City, Albany reports to New York City, and I found out that they give tours, and they will show you all of the rooms.
oh,
And the rooms themselves are very long rectangles. On one end is an organ and two doors. On the other side is a very large chair. And then in front of the organ, there's another chair, and on the south side of the building, there's another chair. That's where the wardens sit, and the master. So every lodge is run by a master mason, the master of the lodge. I'm a past master of Heritage Lodge 371. Um, and then they're assisted by the senior warden, who kind of handles some duties, and the junior warden, who handles refreshment. So if there's dinner afterwards, the junior warden sets that up. And then there are various other officers throughout the lodge. I you can go on the internet and find pictures of virtually every lodge in the United States and Canada and England and everywhere. Um, it's just that there are certain things that get done, initiation rituals, moving from one level to the next. Those do have a little bit of um, privacy to them. Now, if you go on the internet, you will find thousands of people who are like, I quit the Masons. I can talk about whatever I want. And they do. So there aren't a whole lot of, and there are books that are published that both by, good Masons and former Masons and bad Masons that will tell you things that go on there. I will say that it was an opportunity for me to meet a group that I was not going to meet otherwise. Our lodge has doctors and train conductors and security experts and teachers and musicians. There's a lodge in New York City called St. Cecile's Lodge. That was the Performing Arts Lodge. And their meetings, instead of meeting at 8 o'clock at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, would meet in the afternoons so that all the performers on Broadway could go to their shows after the lodge meetings. Um, so it was a way for me to get in touch with people that I normally wouldn't get in touch with. People that just outside of my 27-year-old, sensibilities. They became friends. We've helped each other out. We have picnics. We have get-togethers. Um, since I moved up here, I really have only been back for funerals, unfortunately, because I moved up to the Hudson Valley about 5 years ago. I don't get into the city that much, and I haven't really now with things getting busy with grad school and Pop Heist. I just don't have a lot of time, but it is still a phenomenal organization. We do charity things. But I do have to say that we do not control the world. We can't even get a pancake breakfast together most of the time. Like, we do the best we can. There are those initiation rituals that it's kind of like you're part of a play and things are happening to you. You're not in any danger, but things are happening around you, things are happening to you. You observe things, you are asked questions. And we have three of those. The night that you join, you become an entered apprentice. Um, once you've shown proficiency, which is you have to memorize things. Once you've
Okay.
shown proficiency in the memorization, you can go toward the next degree, which is fellowcraft. You learn things there. It's a different. It's usually kind of longer than the first degree. Different things are shown, different things are said. You have to memorize it. There's a book that you have that's in code that you have to read. Um,
So there
and
is a
then
bit of code that you have to memorize.
it's kind of like imagine a script of a play where the words aren't jumbled. Imagine the word is let's say celebrate. And in the book it will say CLBATE. And you have to remember that when I was going through that degree, someone said the word celebrate at that moment, and that word CLBATE equals celebrate. And you have to memorize the entire play, the questions and the answers, before you can move to the next level. And then once you get past the fellowcraft, it's the master mason level, and then you are a full-fledged mason. You can go to other levels on top of that. But everybody at the very basic is third degree. If you want to keep going, there's different organizations. There's York Rite, which has its own separate degrees after the third degree. There's Scottish Rite, which I was part of, those are the other numbered degrees that go up to. If you ever hear someone being like, he's a 33rd degree Mason, that's what that is. It doesn't mean that you're like the king of the Masons. It just means that you chose to go on that path and go through the additional degrees and get those numbers. I made it up to 32nd degree. 33rd is really kind of an honorary degree. Like, you've done a lot for the organization. You're very active. And then they might give you the 33rd as kind of a presentation thing.
And what's the benefit of going up into all these degrees?
Different understandings, different it's a very good question. It's a very good question. For people who want to keep learning, it is a way to quantify that learning. So
Okay.
I could, once I hit third degree, I'd have access to various libraries, and I can just sit there and read books endlessly. Or I could join, say, the Shriners. It's another one of those organizations where they're focused on doing charitable things. Or Tall Cedars of Lebanon, which is another one of it's the same as York Rite, Scottish Rite, Shriners. I don't know what Tall Cedars of Lebanon does. I only know that my grandfather was one because he wanted to join their band. So it's kind of like, imagine you are in an outdoor festival, like an outdoor food festival, and you can go to any of these booths, but I know at some point you're probably going to get full. So you come in, you get your first 3 courses that everybody gets, and you can go to any different booth that you want to go to. And some of them have extensive menus, some of them have shorter menus, and the only limit is your time. So, I mean, imagine that it's really hard to be part of multiple organizations that meet one day or 2 days a month, in addition to your regular lodge, in addition to your family stuff, in addition to your work stuff. We call that the end of your cable tow. Is that, like, imagine a line, like a rope that is tying you to the things that you have to do. And if your cable tow is long, you have the freedom to do various things. But family things kind of pull you away, or work things. Your cable tow is pretty short then, so you can't get involved with that much stuff. I will say that since the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, numbers were kind of decreasing. Older Masons were passing away. We weren't getting as many younger people. And New York State did something that they'd never done before, which is they started advertising.
Oh, wow.
Billboards, internet ads, websites, TV ads. They started actually running these things, which they'd never done for the last however many 100 years. I feel better about the organization now that they are doing those things. I just wish I had the time to really get into a lodge here. My cable tow is very short at this point.
So it's becoming a bit more mainstream, I guess, if they want to get more, I guess,
Yeah.
new age people involved into it. So that's great. Before we let you go, thank you very much for all your info and your wisdom today. It's very interesting. I found it very thoughtful and very interesting stories, definitely.
I appreciate it. I feel like I've just been talking for a while.
Yeah, that happens as well. Well, it's a podcast, so that's great for that. I appreciate your time. So you also have another project that we'd like to touch on quickly before we do let you go. You have a new project called Pop Heist. So tell us a little bit about that.
I'm really excited about Pop Heist. For a number of years, I was an entertainment journalist, and I had a couple friends that were and still are. One of them left a company called Decider that was owned by the New York Post, and he just said, "You know what? I'm tired of being a servant to the algorithm. I'm tired of everything being giant display banner ads, ruining your experience. I'm tired of the clickbait headlines. I'm just tired of. I want to write the stuff that I want to write." And he and I have talked about it, and we have a couple other people involved. And about 3 weeks ago, we launched popheist.com, Popheist, that is a place where writers get to write about the things, the niche fandoms that, a big company won't really be interested in. Now, we do get into HBO projects and Netflix projects and all those things. But if I wanted to write an article about Abbott and Costello in this day and age, I feel like I have the freedom to write what I want to write about that. We launched it 3 weeks ago, where we've got some really good traction. I really hope that people can check it out. We're writing interesting stuff, funny stuff, strange stuff. I know I'm gonna be writing about psychic things at some point. Right now, I'm writing about a Filipino ripoff of Batman and Robin that was a musical that was released in like 1990. That is the strangest film I've ever seen. And it's a musical, and they steal the music from old 1960s US hits, and they change the lyrics. And it's Batman and Robin and the Joker and the Penguin, and it's so weird. I'm so excited to share it with everybody.
What version of Batman and Robin? Is it like the old 60s, 70s?
Yeah.
It's even better.
It came out, they wanted to do it to time it to the first Tim Burton, the Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton one. And so without really seeing it, so they kind of focused on the old Batman series. It's very strange. It ends with a dance party, and Spider-Man is there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's a little person, which is
a little person.
Such a strange film.
They get the multiverse involved.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and you're definitely welcome back anytime you want to come back on Haunting Live. So thank you. Miss one of our episodes? Replay your episode on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Show your support for Haunting Live by supporting our broadcast partner, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Find them on YouTube.